Hello, I am Sarah McClure, your luxury travel advisor. Today I invite you to join me on a journey through the heart of Amsterdam with We Bike Amsterdam's guided tour. We met at their shop at about 2 p.m., where we were personally fitted with bicycles. After a safety briefing and an introduction to the day's route, we set off to explore the city.
And then at those places we're gonna stop, and there I'll tell you something about the place and about the city. And when we are biking, we're gonna do it in one single file on the right side of the road.
One of the most striking aspects of the tour is the tranquility, so I've opted not to include background music in this video to highlight the sounds of Amsterdam. Our first stop was Heron Market Playground, just outside the historic West India House.
I'm gonna start by telling you something that's even more important, and that's how to lock your bikes. Because here in Amsterdam there's a lot of bike theft. That's also why there are around 3 times as many bikes in the city as there are people. But Amsterdam, compared to Rome or Paris, is a relatively young city. It's about 1,000 years old. And before that, really nobody wanted to live here because all there was swamps and water, basically. So not really a place to start a city. But at some point, some farmers did decide to come here, and they drained the swamps and built dikes and dams for the water. It's also where the name comes from. The Amstel is a big river in the city, and the first dam was built there. And over the years, Amstel Dam became Amsterdam. And when it really became the big capital it is today, was during the Golden Age, which started around 1600. And as you can see, really everywhere in the center of Amsterdam, a lot of the houses here are not standing straight. They're tilted a little bit to one side or the other. And that's because they couldn't just build a house on the ground because it was too swampy, so the houses would sink. So they thought, we're gonna be smart and we're gonna build the houses on poles instead. Very good idea, but back then all the poles were made of wood, and so at some point a lot of them started to rot, and then the houses started sinking anyways. And so for farmers to move their crops to the market, and later for traders to move their goods around the city, mostly these canals were used. And now these days they're mostly used for canal cruises for tourists, and to throw bikes into it. Because that building used to be the West Indian Company building, and together with the East Indian Company they regulated a lot of the trading that the Netherlands was doing in that time. Back then the Netherlands was one of the biggest trading countries in the world, together with England and then Spain and Portugal. Then the governor of Amsterdam, who was a trader for this company, and he traded a lot in Blanco, for example. So there's animals flying around everywhere, but also because the house there was so built, so a lot of people relatively small ones,
From there, we cycled to Prinsenland Island, where our guide shared stories about the history and architecture of the buildings surrounding us.
And it's one of a couple little islands in this area, and these islands used to be used really only for trading. So almost all of these buildings were used as warehouses. And when the Netherlands stopped trading so much for a pretty long time, a lot of these buildings here were not really used for anything until in the 50s. First some artists came here to live and work, and after them a lot of other people came as well. And now it's a very popular neighborhood to live in Amsterdam, also because it's one of the very few residential areas we have in the city. How wide the front of your house was. So you could build as high as you wanted to without having to pay any extra tax. And so everyone just built up instead of to the side. And because of that, a lot of these houses here have very narrow and steep staircases as well. which of course was not very practical when you had to take all these trading goods up into the houses. You can pull a rope through and then you can pull the things up from the side and take them into the window. So that's also why these houses have so many big windows. Yes, some of these houses here are also built intentionally to lean forward a little bit, because that way it's easier to take the things in when you pull them up. It's one of the oldest drawbridges we have in Amsterdam. We have a couple that look exactly like this one. This one still works manually, so you have to have people on both sides pulling on these rings, on these chains. And so one of them was the fires. There used to be a lot of fires here when the houses were still built of wood, because they were all standing so close together. And then the second cross stands for the floods. Amsterdam, like the whole Netherlands, is around sea level, so there used to be a lot of floods here. And then the third cross stands for the pest, the Black Plague.
Next, we made our way to the iconic Westerkerk Church, the tallest church in Amsterdam that was constructed between 1619 and 1631.
Church with the Western Tower, one of the highest points in the city, 72 meters high. And as you can see and hear, it's being renovated. So it doesn't look very pretty right now, but it can be a nice navigation point in the city.
Across the canal, we admired the view of the Anne Frank House and Museum. This is definitely a bucket list experience that reminds visitors of the city's rich yet somber history. As we ventured farther from the city center, we reached the beautiful Vondelpark, Amsterdam's largest.
What's it called again?
Vondelpark.
Okay.
Here, we took a break, enjoying local specialties like bitterballen, split pea soup, and refreshing local beers. A true taste of Dutch culture.
The idea for the park came around 1870 when a group of people in politics, together with some friends with a lot of money, decided that the city needed a park like this. And during the war, they also gave a lot of these houses to the higher officers, and they used a lot of the trees here in the park for fires and war equipment and a lot of other things as well. And our government then rebuilt the park, and it became a public park and open for everyone.
Leaving the park, we cycled through Amsterdam's upscale neighborhoods, marveling at the beautiful architecture before making our last stop in Museum Square.
Our last stop, the Museum Square. So as you could probably guess, we have some museums here. Over there is the biggest one and also the oldest one, the Rijksmuseum. It's 150 years old, and a lot of people when they first see it think it's a central station. There's our own museum over there, Van Gogh Museum. You guys probably say Van Gogh, but the Dutch pronunciation is Van Gogh. And behind the Van Gogh Museum is another little museum, the Moco Museum. You can't really see it from here, but in the Moco Museum there's a lot more modern art, and most of it has some political message in it. It's het Stedelijk Museum, which if you translate is the city museum, and some people from Amsterdam call it the bathtub, others call it the boat, so you can choose for yourself what you see in it. And the towers behind it are the original museum, and then this part was added onto it later. And in the city museum, it's also more modern art for the most part.
Our journey then led us directly through the Rijksmuseum, a true highlight of the city. Then we pedaled the last bit back to the bike shop. The entire tour took approximately 2.5 hours and covered 12 kilometers of scenic routes, city landmarks, and charming neighborhoods. We thoroughly enjoyed the relaxed pace and comprehensive experience, giving us a deeper connection to this enchanting city. Our guide was not only knowledgeable, but incredibly welcoming, making this tour an unforgettable highlight of our trip. If you're looking to explore Amsterdam in an intimate and immersive way, I'm here to help you design the perfect blend of adventure and culture. As always, thank you for watching, and please click the subscribe button for more fun travel adventures.